Welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is the Tesla Energy community covering solar panels, solar roof, and Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady. Today, let's talk about the future of the U.S. electrical grid. Let's talk about production, consumption, and adding an EV. Let's talk about solar PV install capacity. Let's talk about maintaining your solar panels. We've got a video profile and a solar installation worker, and let's get an update on our utility rate on the Tesla app. Let's do it. As per usual, we'll kick off the pod with community input. You can participate by leaving a comment below. You can link your own YouTube videos. You can call 203-816-5150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can also do something that I think is pretty easy. You can link, you can go into the YouTube app. You can record an unlisted video question in the YouTube app, and you can send that link so I can put your question in video form in the show. So first up, we have Steve Doebler. Steve Doebler posts a comment. He's outlining what he's been able to do so far. Let's bring it full screen. Quote, on consumption, we've driven a hybrid for 11 years and are in the queue for an EV. As to production, we've maxed out our PV system under the local electric co-op rules. We have more roof space if we could get more panels permitted, but we are also constrained by roof structural limitation. It's a log frame post beam structure, not log walls, and it was under-engineered. The PV system is microinverter driven, so we hope to be able to add panels one day. Reduction. We replaced all incandescents with LED and changed out some appliances, kind of an all-at-once approach. Our neighborhood is maybe 30% climate change aware, but still a lot of ICE vehicles out there. It's all just FYI and probably pretty typical nationwide, end quote. And you know what? I agree. This is probably quite typical. It's not just probably in the United States, but in many Western countries with lower population densities. I am super curious about a few things. What was the limitation to your photovoltaic system size? How big did your co-op allow you to go, right? I'm also curious about your consumption. So how big a difference did it make replacing your light bulbs and appliances? And then the biggest question I have, how much do you expect your EV to add to your electrical consumption? So I would expect it to more than double your current consumption, since you've already done a lot of reduction in your usage with more efficient bulbs and appliances. But let us know if you have more detail so that we can add your experience and get an idea of what others can expect. And you did get back to me pretty quickly with some additional detail. Notably, you're using a mix of energy sources. It's not all electrical. And you note your system is limited to 16 panels at 335 watts each. That's a total of a little more than 5 kilowatts. So maybe 5.3 kilowatt system. And I would say on a good Sunday, you'll be in a really good position to cover your car's electricity consumption. We'll cover more of that, though, in a future question. Let's pull up the next question. This next one is from Dave Froman. He reacted to episode 35 with these thoughts. Take it full screen. Quote, the grid as we know, its days are numbered. They will never compete against distributed energy costs long term. We're already past grid parity today by a long shot. In 10 years' time, it's going to get so cheap to be energy self-sufficient that we're going to hit what's being called God parity. The point where it's cheaper to be off-grid than what the utility services would charge you before the actual costs of the energy used are added to the equation. We're already seeing this commercially today around the world. Apple, Amazon, Google, heck, even aluminum smelters in Europe are investing in their own power generation and storage today. It's not to look green, it's to save green dollars. In Europe and China, they're already preparing for this eventuality. Their grid operators are moving into energy services and out of energy production assets, end quote. And we've been following VPPs on this channel. Honestly, though, there may be more to this move to the energy services story. It is true that we're able to add solar capacity very cheaply at the moment, but storing that energy so it can be used when we actually want to use it, that requires, say it with me, batteries, right? This is far from a solved problem. And it's probably part of the energy services story, but that, I don't know. It's part of the energy services story, but that implies that they're investing in storage capacity and transmission infrastructure. What I would say, for me personally, no argument from me that the next 10 years will find us very close to energy independence at an individual level. But, right, this is going to be enormously dependent on each individual's ability to store the energy they produce. Something I've been thinking a lot about is how much storage each home might need. If you live in a temperate climate, like near the equator, your storage requirement is probably pretty modest. But if you're in a colder climate, closer to the poles, like where I'm in Connecticut, your storage requirement may need to span weeks and maybe even months because of the shorter production days during the winter. Now, I'll dive further into this in a future episode, but suffice it to say, those in more extreme latitudes will need much more storage. All right, next up, we have Mark Wick. And Mark commented on episode 36, quote, let's bring it full screen. Just want to make sure I have the right thing. I'm expecting to see Mark. Oh, right. That's why it was showing. It's over here in the comments. It's another one of those comments where it doesn't show in the video comment list. I only see it in my stream. So this always throws me off a little bit. But anyway, he says, quote, Colorado no longer has the 120% limit to solar. I did have this when I first got my solar, but I intended to add to the system. I know, and should be allowed, should be allowed to put in whatever I can, end quote. Now, this is great news for you and for others that live in Colorado. I'd be interested in what your utility is doing to buffer that capacity. Are they installing batteries of some flavor? I mean, presumably they are. Do you have any idea what's driven the removal of that limitation? Was it just purely political? Or was it functional in some way? So let us know in the comments below, although your comment didn't show up in the first place. Very disorienting for me, but let's take a look at the next one. This is from Dwight Adams. He has a comment on his solar plans, quote, as I plan on a future solar system installation, I'm thinking I should maximize the system allowed by FPL in Florida, that's Florida Power and Light, for a Tier 1 10 kilowatt AC system. I say this assuming growing electrical use with EVs and efficiency decrease over time. That's efficiency decrease from the production of a solar photovoltaic system. I'm thinking this may be better than adding to the system at a future date. I'll discuss this with Tesla when I'm ready to order in 2022 or 2023. End quote. The big X factor here is that future EV. So a 10 kilowatt system seems small to me, but you're in Florida and you'll get more electricity generation from your 10 kilowatt system than I would up here in Connecticut, especially in these winter months. But let's estimate how much electricity you might need to supply your EV. So I've come up with a few resources. This first one, I'll go ahead and bring it full screen. This is a Kelley Blue Book reference. Average miles driven per year and why it's important. Now, this October 2021 article from KBB summarizes data from the United States Department of Transportation, and that includes average miles driven per year. Now, I realize personally that nobody is average, but this can give us at least a ballpark in which we can estimate the additional electricity required when adding an EV. So let's take it full screen again. You can see here that the average person drove 14,263 miles per year in 2019. And maybe we're getting back to those levels, but substitute your own figures if you like. We then will look at, how much energy the average EV requires to travel in a mile. So I found this interesting resource at ecocostsavings.com. They did a survey in 2021 of 231 vehicles and calculated that the average electric car required, scroll down a little bit. Now they have it in watt hours per mile, but here's our kilowatt hours per mile, 0.346. So let's get the calculator up to see what that might end up being for a year. Is this it? There we go, calculator. So that's 14,000 times 0.346. And that gives us 4,844 kilowatt hours of electricity used by the average electric car each year. So let's divide that by the number of days in a year, right? And we'll see what we consume in a day. I mean, we'll call that, 13 kilowatt hours per day, just on average, right? And with a 10 kilowatt system in Florida, absolutely doable, no question. Even considering, efficiency losses, electricity requirements from the rest of the home, and even accounting for poor sun, all of that probably means you only need a couple of hours of generation from a 10 kilowatt system to get the electricity required. This does not match up with my experience, though. I can't see energy consumption for my car in the Tesla app. So I got inside the car to take a quick look at the consumption, and I took a video. Let's take a look at that video. So you can see that once I pull up the energy information, that it's rolled up into an average watt hour per mile. Now, if we put that in kilowatt hour terms, then that's 0.285 average for 15 miles, and then this one is for 5 miles. So 0.288 for the last 30 miles. It gets a little bit more efficient at 15 miles, showing 0.285. And then way higher, if we filter down to the last 5 miles. But the whole point is that the whole thing is just a smidge under the 0.3 kilowatt hours we were using to figure the average vehicle usage, So it's just a smidge lower than that average that the article had calculated. But does this mean that I'm clearly wrong about my car's consumption? I've been asserting that the car consumes, more than the rest of the house combined, right? I've been saying that, I don't know, for a few episodes at least. And that just the car requirement is doubling my consumption per day. I don't know. Looking at our consumption today, I think I can pull it up. Yeah. Make it nice and big. There we go. You can see that we've consumed 45 kilowatt hours, and this is dominated by our car charging. Now, true, some of this charging is from yesterday's consumption. So let's look at yesterday, right? We should have that. Yeah, you can see that right at the end of the day, we still ended up having to charge the following day. But again, we're at 43 kilowatt hours. It's also dominated by the car charging. So I don't understand what's happening here. I mean, we're going to have to do the math for the creative director wife's commute so we can see what the actual impact should be, right? So let me pull up the map so you can kind of see what's going on here. So this is the map of the commute. You can see that she has some options, but on average, depending on traffic, See, there's a 29.4 mile option, a 28.9 mile option, and a 32.5 mile option. On average, her commute's going to be about 30 miles. So that's 30 miles each way. So that's 60 miles total for her commute. At a very conservative 0.3 kilowatt hours per mile. Sorry, I got to clear out the calculator. So 30 times 2 is 60 times 0.3 is 18 kilowatt hours of energy required by the car per day. I mean, that's not going to dominate 40 kilowatt hours of electricity usage we see in the app. It's going to be about half. So like, seriously, what's going on here? I mean, my estimates, I wouldn't say are way off. You know, they're a smidge conservative. But after thinking about this for a few days, there are a couple of things that I've been able to come up with. First is efficiency loss. We've talked about this extensively in relation to the Powerwall. A lot of energy is lost getting electricity into and out of the battery. And then second, the car is a big-ass battery. So what we're looking at in terms of efficiency loss with the car is what? Well, Joe Ordia recently did a video covering efficiency loss on his channel. Well, not efficiency loss, sorry. He was covering on his channel what it would take to use solar power to power a car. Check it out. I put the link below, and I'll see if I can put a card up here in the corner so you can go check out his breakdown on the solar generation capacity required to charge an EV. But what we should do is we should do the math here, right? We should know... well, we actually happen to know that the Tesla Powerwalls are about 85% efficient conservatively. The spec sheet, I think, says 93% efficient, but let's get some conservative numbers that'll be, you know, closer to real-world results rather than having, you know, perfect lab results. So let's bring up that calculator again. If we need to simply charge the car from solar, let's clear it out. We'll be taking DC and converting it to AC, sending it through the charger to the car, which will then convert AC back to DC to charge the battery. So let's call that our standard 15% efficiency loss, just like the Powerwall. So for that 18 kilowatt hours of energy, that means we're going to, sorry, not 0.13. So 18 kilowatts times 1.15 means we'll need 20.7 kilowatt hours of electricity to charge up the car. So we'll call it 21. But wait, does the creative director wife park at the house to charge her car while she's at work? No, she doesn't. She doesn't charge until she gets home late at night. So that means she's charging off the Powerwall when she gets home. So back to the calculator. We have some efficiency loss we need to add to this calculation. We've already talked extensively about that 15% efficiency loss in the Powerwall, but because we're charging from the Powerwall, we need to double the efficiency loss. So for that 18 kilowatt hours of consumption for the car, we would need to generate 1.3, there we go, 23 kilowatt hours of electricity to get the car round trip to her office and back again. Now, that's not the only driving the creative director wife does, of course. We need to factor in a few miles for lunches with rock stars and models, a few miles for drinks with the Connecticut elite after work, and we might need to add, I don't know, 10 miles to the total commute. So let's get back over to that calculator. We were saying it was 30 miles each way, times 2, 60, plus another 10 gets us to 70 miles. So that means we're taking that 30-mile estimate, we're doubling it for round trip, 60 miles. We'll add the 10 additional for the creative director lifestyle. We get that 70 miles round trip. Now, 70 miles times 0.3 gives us 21 kilowatt hours used in a day by the car. Our battery capacity in the Powerwalls, we have 2 of them. It's about 27 kilowatt hours. So basically all of the electricity that she's charging the car with is coming from the Powerwalls when she gets home and plugs in the car. So calculating for efficiency loss on both the Powerwall and the car, that's 30% for those of you keeping score at home. We take 21 kilowatt hours and we multiply it by 1.3. And we get 27.3 kilowatt hours. Now, this makes way more sense. Now, for the average day we're charging the car, our house uses 40 kilowatt hours of electricity. If our car requires 27 kilowatt hours of electricity, then we can expect that our house only requires about 13 kilowatt hours of that 40 that we're logging every day. That's when we're not charging the car. This way, well, this is all like way closer to the numbers that I expect to see. And then what's that huge culprit again? Efficiency loss. And because of that efficiency loss, we need to generate way more than we consume. About 30% more than we consume, to be more precise, right? Certainly closer to 30% for multi-EV car households anyway. And I get that this whole calculation was the long way around, but it's definitely helpful in understanding why we need to generate so much electricity to charge cars when compared with just powering our homes. So thank you to Steve Doebler, Dave Froman, Mark Wick, and Dwight Adams for their input. You guys make me a better man. Special mention to Kevin Giasulo. I know your project's coming up. I will connect with you to make sure we get coverage of your install to share. Thanks for being patient. And we want to hear from the rest of you. Send in your YouTube video links, comment below, call 203-816-5150, and email teslapowerpodcast.com. Now let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll cover some news. CNET published a hit piece on solar with the following headline, quote, "What are the hidden costs of solar panels? There are some long-term costs associated with solar panels. We'll explain everything you need to know," end quote. Tell me more. The article outlines the following. Let's take it full screen. If I scroll down a little bit, quote, sorry. I just want to make sure I'm pulling the right part. The first quote is, "There's not much." Oh, come on. It was easy for me to find originally, and now, of course, I can't find it. But they're saying there's not much to worry about in terms of regular maintenance. I just wish I could highlight it. Oh, yeah, right here. There's not much to worry about in terms of regular maintenance, end quote. And then later, they say, luckily, solar system warranties include a performance guarantee. So assuming you're still under warranty, you shouldn't have to pay to get your panels fixed. That's nice. And then later still, they quote, "It's unlikely, but in some cases, you might need to have your solar panels repaired or replaced," end quote. Now, what's this article really about? I mean, it's about clicks. That's all they're trying to do is get you to click on their article. And I got to say, I'm getting duped by some great brands like Forbes and CNET. And this is really discouraging. The truth about solar is that it's the lowest maintenance, lowest cost energy source on the planet. Even more distasteful about this is the audio clip they have at the top of the item. Let me show you here.
Many people are aware of the upfront costs of installing solar panels, including the price of the system, permits and contractors. However, something that isn't discussed as often is the ongoing expense of maintaining a residential solar system. Fortunately, while there are some extra costs associated with keeping your solar panel...
It's a freaking robot. Can you believe it? So what are they doing with these fake articles? I'm super disappointed seeing that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Just painful. Friggin' painful. All right, this one is from PV Magazine. They are reporting on something I've covered a couple episodes back, and Jack Rickard, he's a damn wizard. Here we go. Quote, Western Australia's has become the second state to give network operators the capacity to remotely switch off residential solar systems as an emergency grid stability mechanism. End quote. What? Australia is way ahead of the solar adoption curve, and they're dealing with grid stability issues today that we in the United States will be dealing with in the next few years. In episode 32, we talked about the possibility of the power companies shutting off your solar. And Trevor Mafucci was incredulous. He says, how is that even legal? Well, this is how. In the name of stability, the utility will be given the authority to turn off your solar system. What's the solution to all this? Say it with me. Batteries. We need to make as many of them as possible, as affordably as possible, as soon as possible. My heart goes out to you Aussie friends who are affected. I hope your government is offering incentives to make buying solar and storage worth it. But I want to hear from you. Are you affected by this? Does it seem fair? Is it worth sacrificing the value of your solar production in exchange for a stable grid? Is there anything you can do to protect yourself from, eroding the value of your solar assets that you've purchased? So let us know in the comments below. Send us some video input. We'd really, really love to hear it. Last up, we have a video clip from CNBC. Let's watch.
When I was a child, I always wanted to find myself in a career where I really was actually helping people. So that's very important to the reason why I'm in this field. My name is Ricky Gass. I'm 25. I live in Linden, New Jersey. I'm a certified solar installer, and I'm looking forward to making $100,000 this year.
By state law, if it's over 1 megawatt, it has to be prevailing wage. Amount of panels that we're getting ready to do is over 1 megawatt, it automatically prevailing wage. The jobs that we take that's under 1 megawatt are considered non-rate, which is 22 an hour. Prevailing wage is 65 when non-rate is 22. I take care of both my kids, and I take care of both their moms too. But I always liked being a superhero though. I always thought of myself as a little kid, let me be a superhero. Let me bear it, and then they can be spoiled and all that.
My dad was a big bass player, and my mom is a nurse. Grew up in Newark, where I was born. I was a good student. I like to learn. I always like to learn since I was a child. A bit of a class clown at times, I can admit. Graduated in 2014. I knew I wanted to be different. I knew I wanted to have a good job and things during high school, but I just didn't know how to get there. So I was a little confused after high school because I didn't have a real plan.
After high school, I went to college, and then I was arrested, and then I went to trade school. Immediately after I got out, I didn't do an outpatient program. I did that, and then I went back to work.
I just wanted to change my life. I was running from my past. I was running away from complacency, laziness. I was running from a lot of things. So I just put all my energy and effort into school. School is the first springboard to where I'm at now. Always loved construction. I just wanted to be build a house for my mom, or build houses for communities, or build a house for myself. Work week is 5 days a week, 40 hours, no weekends, at all. The money, we're making so much money that there's no need for overtime. I wake up, I would say 4:30 in the morning. My current commute is an hour and a half, so I gotta get up a little earlier, but it's okay, because it's worth it. We start at 6:30 in the morning or 6, dependent. We have our morning meeting on as far as who's gonna do what for the day. And we break up, everybody gets they task for the day, and then we all go into our separate positions. So if we're doing solar panels, then we're mostly likely all working together. But if we are working like on the racking systems or wire management, that's more of a solo task. Work into like 2:30. I've installed at a couple of different places. My first job we did was 11,000 panels on one roof, and I was at like 10,000 panels on the second roof, right adjacent from that roof. Yeah, physically, you gotta be ready. You can't like oversleep. You can't go to sleep 2, 3 in the morning and think you're gonna get up and lift 40 or 50 or maybe even 100 panels in a day. Lifting bricks, lifting panels, lifting different type of wiring, different equipment. You definitely have to not necessarily be the strongest person, but you definitely have to be prepared. Because your technique is more important than the actual physical part of the job. Like, if you have your technique down pat and you have your skills that you were taught and how we were trained, the physical part is not the hardest part. It's definitely the technique. The benefits, you have great healthcare benefits, vision, dental, medical. First paycheck, it changed everything. It changed like my goals, like at that exact moment. It changed my expectations for myself. And it just, it made like all the people that was working with me that believed in me, like that was their confirmation too. Best thing on the job, I would say, was when I got the call from my girlfriend that Raina was coming when she was being born. That was the best day on the job. And I had to leave work and go and take her to the hospital. That was the best day on the job. Because I'll be the first one happy for everyone else. They were like really supportive, like just, yeah, to see them there for me, like for personal situations, just makes me more effective working with them on the roof, just makes me work 10 times harder. Whew. My worst day on the roof, it was the winter for sure, and my hands were numb. I couldn't move my hands. My feet was numb. I couldn't even move my toes, and we still had to lift panels at the time, and it was just brutal. Like, it was like sometimes, like you say it's cold, but it was maybe like -10 degrees with like 30-mile-an-hour winds. We tried hand warmers, didn't work, nothing worked. 3 jackets didn't work, but we got through the day. Right now, I am a solar installer. I have plans on becoming a supervisor very soon, with Froman coming after that, humbly speaking, and of course, the next step is CEO. I'm happy about everything that I'm doing right now. I'm happy, like, my kids love me, my kids look up to me, my community, my school, I completed my school, GAF, solar landscape, like everything that I've been through, it's been worth it. It's been humbling. It's been great, and I love the journey.
This story has some warts, but it is a great example of how the new energy economy is an enormous opportunity for a huge portion of the workforce. Now, this isn't a residential story. 100 panels in a day is definitely a commercial install, but what do you think he'll be investing in when he gets his own home? He'll be installing some solar and hopefully some storage, but we all have some work to do to make sure that this is a possibility. Let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll check in on solar production from our solar roof, and we'll check out energy usage at the house. So checking in on solar production, you can see mostly we're doing pretty well, but we'll start with my brother-in-law system from this is from a couple days ago. His solar interface sucks, so we can't get production every day. Like, I'll just get the daily and the weekly bar charts. So this is the last time I could get a solar curve from him was on the 29th. You can see his daily production was 14 kilowatts. You can see that barely right here on the top. And that his monthly production was, let's call it 540, right? 540 kilowatt hours for the month of November. So let's check out how our solar roof system has compared. Let me just bring that again, full screen. Yeah. So we were a solid 4 kilowatt hours ahead at 18 kilowatt hours produced that same day. In your face. and what about for the month? We've been tracking ahead very consistently all month. What do you think we've gained? What, 10 kilowatt hours, 20 kilowatt hours, maybe more? So let's check it out. Let me bring it full screen. We have produced, dun dun dun, 602 kilowatt hours in the month of November. And that is as of the 29th, right? And that's 60 kilowatt hours more production, something like, I don't know, 3 days worth of winter production rates. And for the full month now, we do have those numbers. We did 615 kilowatt hours for the month of November. Not too shabby. We have a few more months of outproducing the brother-in-law before the sun gets high and the system starts putting us to shame. But we're all winners, right? I did finally get November's electricity bill. Yeah, so I believe the next episode is our big 6-month breakdown. Geeks, be sure to tune in. And something I haven't seen a single person mention was the updated Tesla app allows you to update your utility rate. As per usual, I've saved that for the podcast. So, shall we? Let me see if I can bring that up. I forget how to do it exactly. Oh, I've got a new app because you remember my last app was like super laggy and dumb. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. It should actually even be a lot faster to set up. It does have a little countdown before it starts broadcasting. But I do see now that it is keeping up. So let's bring that to insert. I mean, it's as big as it's going to get for everybody anyway. The animation looks pretty good. It's not too delayed either. That's actually quite good. So we can see energy, impact, and then third one down is update your utility rates. That's impact because I can't click the right thing. So let's update your rate plan. Get started. Let's put in our state of Connecticut. Our utility provider is not Eversource, and there's no option. I mean, I wish I had Eversource. Oh. All right. Just for the sake of going through the motions, I'll select Eversource. Oh, can't find your utility provider. Okay, custom rate plan. So I have United Illuminating. Of course, they're not in the system. That is par for course for United Illuminating. They're not exactly on the front edge of technology. I can't even pay my gas bill. I do get my electric bill through e-bills, but I can't get my gas bill, which also is the same like energy group. But anyway, so UI. So we have season and month. We do not have time of use. So our season month, season 1, which we can change, which is great. So you might remember we get 2 utility rates, and I really should pull up a utility bill, and I think I can do that reasonably easy. Electricity bills. Let's bring up our last one. I won't be able to share it with you guys, but I'll be able to reference it here. So our utility rate in the winter is our effective generation rate. Does it tell us? It gives us a bar chart at 9 cents a kilowatt hour, but we know that's not correct. That's just the generation rate. That doesn't include transmission fees and everything else. All right, so I'm going to have to add this up pretty quickly. So 8, 3, 11, 10, 8, 3. All right, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So about 21 cents per kilowatt hour in the winter months. And then May, June, July, August. May, June, July, August, September has a different. All right, so October through April, we buy our electricity at 27 cents. We do have net metering, so we get to sell it also at 27 cents, which is great. And then looking at our June bill, that generation rate is, so 9 and 8 is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Should be more than 27. I'm just counting it up again. Oh, this bill is split. So it's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Because it's split, it's a little bit harder for me to tell what it is. 9, 3, 8. So it's 12 plus 8 is 20. 21, 22, 23, 24. So this is at the lower rate, which is 24. So 24 cents. So 27, this is actually 24 cents. Next, this is actually 27 cents. So not a huge difference between the two seasons, but still interesting to see. And if your utility rates are more complicated, then this will make it a lot more valuable for you, of course. All right, so now we have our utility rate plan in. It doesn't make that much difference for us, but it does give us some calculus potentially, though I don't see where we could look that up in the app itself. But we now have set up our utility rates. If you have a more complicated rate and you've been able to set yours up, let me know how it helps you either time shift your electricity usage, right? Because you can pull it in at a lower rate, put it in your battery, and then use that later when electricity is a lot more expensive. But hopefully that was valuable, to a few of you guys that didn't even know that that was an option. I know I hadn't seen it at all. So that will do it, though, for episode 37 of the Tesla Power Podcast. You are welcome, of course, to use my referral code, and please do. That would be really awesome. You can save $500 on a solar roof and $300 on solar panels. That referral code explicitly is ts.la/Aaron62310. You can go there and place your order. I am Aaron Brady, your Tesla residential energy community organizer. Let's do this again on the next video.